Hari Om. Good morning to everybody. My name is Radha Krishna. I'm here in San Diego, and thank you very much to Fawai Forum for providing this opportunity. Perfect. Good morning. We are gathered here today to talk about the first verse of the Kenopanishad. So usually we begin by some simple greeting, Namaste, Hari Om. We say Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, something of that nature. Now, often we say these words without much thought. So I would like to spend a few minutes remembering our teachers. When you say Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, mentally we can form a vision of who our teachers, a picture of our teachers. But I'd like to spend a few minutes remembering our teachers a little bit more before we get into the discussion this morning. It's a way of bowing down to our teachers just to remember them. Many years ago, Swami Chidanandaji was here in San Diego, and early morning he was leading a meditation class. See, when he teaches, people like him teaches, the teaching carries such force for 30 years. You remember it for 35 years. So he was leading a morning meditation class. He doesn't do that very often. He led the morning meditation. And after the morning meditation, he asked for questions from the audience. And of course, in his tradition, we write down our questions and he reads them, answers the question, tears the paper to say that a doubt has been resolved, and puts the paper aside. But one question that somebody asked was very impressive. He or she, I don't remember, said, it is very difficult to keep the image of Sri Ramchandraji, of Sri Krishna in your mind during meditation. Would it be all right instead to keep Swami Chidanandaji in your mind? And his response was loud and clear. He said, no, absolutely no. He said, if you can keep Swami Chidanandaji in your mind, you can keep Sri Krishna in your mind. That was his response. And then he said, but if you really must keep a human being in mind, turn to Swami Tapovanam and keep Swami Tapovanam in your mind during meditation. That was his response. So this morning, let's spend a few minutes thinking about Swami Tapovanam, Sri Swami Tapovanam. I've never met him. I've never heard anything, any of his lectures, or even seen a video. I remember only one picture of him, rather coarse and grained picture of him. But nonetheless, he has made a strong impression over the years. How is it possible? So recently, Swami Chidanandaji, he sends out Spark. Swami Chidanandaji, our teacher, sends out Spark notes by email. And he suggested to young people take long walks in nature. Sri Swami Tapovanam used to do that. He used to take long walks in the woods, in the Himalayan forests. He took great joy in the trees, the plants, the creepers, the flowers of the forest. I remember in one story about monkeys in the forest. He considered nature to be a window to God. We should copy from him. We should learn from these stories. Knowing that intrinsically it is the correct thing to do. Take long walks in nature, just like he did. Learn from him. And in the Spark that Swami Chidanandaji has sent recently, he had many suggestions. One of them was to take a mantra with you and just repeat the mantra. Mantra means shloka. With great affection, care, attention, slowly. So if you go on these long walks, take a mantra with you. And the shloka will reveal itself and become a wonderful recipe for slowing down our mind and helping us to focus. So that is our homage to our teachers today, before we start our discussion. Let's start with the prayer. Karacharana kritam vākkāyajam karmajam vā shravana nayanajam vā manasam vā paradham vihitam avihitam vā sarvametat kshamasva jaya jaya karunabdhe Shri Mahadeva Shambho. I like this prayer. It asks for forgiveness. And it also reminds me of something Swami Chidanandaji said recently in some talks he gave in last year, which recordings of which I listened. I did not attend the talks. He said something that stuck in my mind. Again, these things have great force when a teacher says them. He said, think of FIR. Whenever you slip and fall, whenever there's what we might call papa, as part of this effort, this sadhana, take enthusiasm, take encouragement from the fact that they become less frequent, F. They become less intense, I. And the repetition becomes less often. So, FIR. So that's another thing that he has told us that gives us encouragement to pursue the sadhana, because all of us realize we're not perfect. Sadhana is not always good. We tend to slip and fall. Let's enter the Upanishad. Atha Kenopanishad. Shanti Patha. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vāk Pranaschakshuh Shrotram Matho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Mama Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Me Anirakaranam Me Astu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmaha Te Mayi Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shanti Padha, again to calm us down and make sure we have the right attitude towards study. Just a couple of things we'll spend time on. Maham Brahma Nirakuryam. May I never deny the Brahman, deny the existence of Brahman, deny the recognition of Brahman, deny the awareness of Brahman. May I never deny the existence of Brahman, the awareness of Brahman. It's very powerful. As you go through the day, your mind is almost in two levels, split level. Early morning, when you sit in meditation, you can calm down and you can begin to sense the presence of Brahman. Maybe not realize that is way too much. And then through the day, as you go in, your mind is fully engaged in the world. It's a different level, different plane of engagement. And during the day, you tend to forget the underlying base, the underlying substratum in which all these activities arise. So during the day, Brahma Nirakaranam does exist. So Maham Brahma Nirakuryam, like that. Another prayer here. Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmaha Te Mayi Santu, Te Mayi Santu. Those kind of qualities, those kind of behaviors that are exhibited by somebody who revels in the Upanishads, who has realized Brahman, may those qualities, may those behaviors be mine. May they be exhibited in me. It's another prayer. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's get into the Upanishad. When I saw the announcement that Vibhaji put out, she always picks a very nice picture. She always makes corrections in any mistakes that you make, etc. But two things stuck out. One is the title was Pravachan. At least this morning there is no Pravachan. This is as students, we are trying to understand something, so we may learn from the teacher when the teacher gives a Pravachan, and that's important. Sri Shankara has mentioned many, many times that Brahman is not to be gained by intellectual argumentation or intellectual discussion, which is the subject of this morning's discussion. So this is not a pravachan. Also, under the title, Vāk Speech, she put in parentheses, vācho vācham. That is the kind of solution, that is the answer given by the teacher. We will not address that today. Our purpose today is simply to understand what is speech. Beyond that, let's wait for the right moment. The Guru will come when we are ready, and the right moment will come when we are ready. So the first shloka says, Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha Kena pranaha prathamaha praiti yuktaha Keneshitam vāchamimam vadanti Chakshuhu shrotram kaudevo yunakti Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha. If I had my way, this is enough. We don't even need the full first shloka. Impelled by what does the mind fall upon its objects? Impelled by what does the mind touch its objects? And its objects may be external objects, may be internal thoughts, but where do these spring from? Preshitam, wonderful word for discussion, for meditation. Impelled by what? That impelling, that forcing, that driving is so direct. Preshitam, it's a desire of something so fundamental that the mind think. What is that? Fundamental thing which propels the mind. Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha. This is enough. But the first shloka has 4 parts, so we need to study the rest also. It says, Kena pranaha prathamaha praiti yuktaha. Pranaha, the great force in the universe that is the root of all action. It seems as if it has one wire stuck inside me, one wire stuck inside each of you, one wire stuck inside my child, to enliven all of us and create our own perception of prana, our own breathing. Keneshitam vāchamimam vadanti. And suddenly it turns to plural. By what is it that these words are spoken by us? There's a hint here that vācham is intended for communication between multiple people. Vadanti, not vadati, vadanti. Chakshuhu shrotram kaudevo yunakti. The eyes and the ears. What God yokes all of these and propels them forward. We'll dig into some depth here. There's a little bit of scientific approach here, which is at odds with Brahma Vidya. He's asking about the mind, he's asking about the prana, asking about speech, asking about the eyes and ears, almost as if we're dividing them and studying each of them separately. But the beauty is, when we do try to do that, in our own minds, we recognized all of these are intertwined, they are one. So when the student asks, Kaudevo yunakti, what deva yokes all of these and propels all of these, he's asking what is the one that drives this one. And that's a strange statement to make, but please bear with me. I'm trying to say that even though we try to study the mind first, we try to study prana, we try to study speech, we try to study perception, eyes and ears. As we study these, we realize these are all one and the same. And the student's question is, what is the one deva, the one power that propels this one being that we see in ourselves? I think we need to spend just about 5 or 6 minutes recap, remembering what we discussed in earlier sessions regarding the mind, manaha. We won't recap everything, but since the last time, I have a few I'm sorry, Vibhaji is sending some text. I thought maybe there's something wrong. My train of thought is still okay. A few understandings that I would like to share regarding the mind, and then we'll go straight to speech. So what is manaha? So Swami Chidanandaji used to use a BMI chart, Indriya Mana Buddhi, the senses, the body, the mind, the intellect. But the mind appears to be, when you look at it, perhaps feelings, perhaps thought, creative thought, analytical thought, perhaps memories, and each have a different flavor. Memories. Memories are an accumulation of our experiences. They are a rest upon which we pursue new thought, creative thought. They're a table upon which we stand so we can reach up to new heights of thinking. Memories are an accumulation of prior experiences. We normally think of memories as impressions of the universe that we store in our brain. But recently I saw something, completely different perspective on memories that I'd like to share. Madhvacharya-ji, one of our greatest teachers, suggested memories are thoughts of the mind when the mind travels into the past. It's not as if there's a storage of memories and memories somehow come forward. It says the mind actively travels to the past, and that is what memory is. There's a subtle difference in thinking here, and it helped calm my mind in many ways and put this aside as an Atindra Vishaya. I don't need to worry about this. I can focus on the intent, which is trying to find Brahman. So, memories are essential. They're an essential constituent of knowledge. Knowledge is based on memories. Another thing we talked about before, memories are almost essential and they help form the ego. The ego is dependent on memories. I did this, I did that. That's the I, that's the ahamkar, aham karomi. I'm sorry, this is good. Okay. Lastly, I think I mentioned this once before, but I'd like to mention this again. When I speak and you listen, even if you're in the same room with me, and you speak and I listen, there's a time lag, and this is scientifically proven, between when you express your thought and when I absorb the thought, which means when I absorb the thought, it is already in the past. So to think here and now, that is a big challenge. And when you try to pursue that, to be here and now, even when a thought arises in your brain, in the recognition of the thought, it's already in the past. The thought is already in the past. To live here and now is perhaps how we can try to approach Brahman. Enough about manaha. Creative thought. Creative thought, and I do a lot of research, and so it struck upon me once. It's trying, we use a memory saying, it is not this, it is not this, it is not this, therefore it must be this. So the Upanishad way of teaching, neti, 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 is not very strange. It is as scientific as modern fluid mechanics and heat transfer is. One thing to bring in thoughts and words, because today is words, speech. Perhaps feelings are thoughts without words. This is the first hint of the relationship between thought and words, which we'll expand upon later on. So our job in meditation every morning, as Swami Chidanandaji has instructed us to do, is to slow down our thoughts, slow them down, reduce the flow of thoughts, fewer, less intense, less repetitive, FIR, as Swami Chidanandaji used. And As we slow down, perhaps we get a glimpse of the cradle from which these thoughts arise. Okay, we will not recap prana. There's only a limited amount of time. We will not recap prana. Let's go straight to speech. Speech is very familiar to all of us. We speak almost without thinking, which is a bad thing. We speak almost without thinking. However, speech may not be as natural as we assume it to be. Look at the difference, for example, between walking and speaking. A child is born with 2 legs, and almost automatically a baby learns to crawl and then to walk. The legs are intended for walking. Speech is slightly different. There's no single organ of speech. While speaking, we use our lungs. The purpose of lungs is not to speak. The purpose of lungs is to breathe. While speaking, we use a tongue. The purpose of a tongue is not to speak. The purpose is to taste. While speaking, we use a nose. We use a nose. The purpose of the nose is not to speak. It is to smell. Now, while speaking, we use our lips. But the purpose of lips, perhaps, is not to speak. You close your mouth. Purpose of lips is to close your mouth so you don't speak, and yet you use them to speak. There are vocal cords that are intended for speech. So speech is sort of an overlay function that uses your lungs, your lips, your teeth, your tongue, uses all of these organs to create an expression. So the fundamental difference between an instinct like walking and something like speech. A baby learns to speak from its parents, learns to speak through cultural influences, through society, uncles and aunts, learns to speak, learns to control all these organs together so it can produce speech. Something else, I'd like to very briefly digress. Perhaps there's a difference between the concept of communication and speech. There can be silent communication. Again, go back to that discussion on walks in nature. Silent communion with nature. If you sit on a seashore quietly early in the morning, a calm descends on you. The waves are communicating with you, not speaking in the traditional sense, but communicating. So communicating always exists. In modern theory, which I do not know well, so I hear it, it's a good example, so I'll give it, but I don't understand it. String theory says a particle here can communicate with a particle millions of light years away. That is string theory. So communication can exist in the universe. And come back to speech, which is language-based. Language. What is language? And these are some thoughts from Sri Aurobindo. He says, at first, beyond doubt, language, human sounds must have been created, spontaneously, naturally, to express sensation. Or if someone hits you, you say, ah, or something like that. Then perhaps, Sri Aurobindo says, language developed to mimic sounds we hear. We hear a koyal, so we call it a koyal. Or we hear an owl, so hoo, hoo, we call it an owl. So perhaps that's how words started. Then as the mind and thinking evolved, we started creating words to describe the object and to construct concepts about the object. The swan is graceful. Swan is graceful. There's concept there. So we developed the word graceful for the concept. So perhaps that's how language developed. But one thing we should keep in mind is language, in many ways, words are simplifications. Let me explain. I'm speaking to you from my home. You all understand that. But the word home to me is different than the word home to each one of you. So we have come to an agreement on a concept called home, which is a simplification. It doesn't have the specifics of your home or my home or his home or her home. It's a simplified version. Home is a simplification of many, many homes. You remove the specifics, and that is the concept. Now, you take a few of the words and think about the simplification aspect, and then perhaps you realize that is why language cannot describe Brahman. Now, maybe Brahman doesn't have attributes. I do not know about that, and therefore it cannot be described. But when you think about words and how they are really simplifications, that gives you another perspective as to why language, why Brahman is beyond speech. So we've talked quite a bit, I'm sorry, but a couple of places we talked about words and thinking. So each of them, Sri Aurobindo says this, has their own boundaries. Certain boundaries for words, speech, certain boundaries for thinking. But there's a very strong overlap. Let's explore some boundaries. It is possible to think without words. We'll come to that later. It's possible to speak without thinking. That happens very often. Like I said, we started the lecture with saying Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. It's almost like automatic statement. So we slowed down and said, let's think about it and remember some of our teachers. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Or you go to work, you say good morning. You don't think, you just say it. So it's possible for words to spill out without much thinking, almost like a reflex action. Is it possible to think without words? It's very, very difficult. You can feel without words, but logical thinking, constructive thinking, words are almost essential. They're so intertwined. When you sit in meditation, there's a rush of words initially, it slows down. Rush of thoughts initially, it slows down. Notice how we use words, thoughts. One of the meditative exercises is to think of the word Om. Om. And to help concentrate, you might mentally actually write the letter Om. Om. And mentally you hear the sound Om. Mentally you speak the sound Om. But the word is there. Or you say, you use a mantra, the words are there. It's very, very difficult to separate words from thought. So you wish you could separate them, but when thoughts slow down, they approach that cradle from which thoughts appear, maybe there's a chance of not using words. A few more things, let's see. Swami Chidanandaji, in one meditation session, said, think about the image of Sri Krishna. Just focus on the image, let the words disappear. Focus on the image. And he said in his experience, when you really focus, all that remains after a while is not even the image of Sri Krishna, but just the smile alone. Think about that pure state of mind where just the smile remains, no words, no picture, nothing. So maybe it is possible to think without words. It's not easy for us, but maybe it is possible. Something else, hearing is intrinsically linked to speech. But you can have silent words. So hearing is not essential. When you read a book, the words go into your thought without ears. But you can begin to see now, hearing, perception, thoughts, words, speech, these are all tightly linked. When you really think about it, when you really try to contemplate about it, there can only be one source behind them, It's not one power of speech, one power of mind, one power of seeing. They're all one. Now, these are things that perhaps even I could understand. I'd like to say a few things here that I could not understand. And I could not understand because these were given to us by great teachers who have visions that you and I do not have. Maybe you do, that I do not have. Let's reach to the Bible. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him not anything was made. It's the first connection. So the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Christians say the Word is Jesus Christ, and all things were made through him. So here's a connection between creation, things being made, and Word. Word with an uppercase W. It's very difficult for us to truly understand this concept and truly make it our own. The reason I said that was Sri Aurobindo said something very simple. In the Vedic system, the Word, capital W, the Word was the creatrix. By the Word, Brahman creates the forms of the universe. Must be a realized soul who could even say such things, because even after he says them, I cannot understand them. Let's turn to Shankaracharya ji. He says, Vāk is the organ presided by Agni, fire. And Vibhaji has said, used the picture of Agni in the announcement for this conversation. Occupying 8 localities in the body, like the root of the tongue, etc., etc. Okay, that's easy to understand. But presided by Agni, not so difficult, not so easy to understand. Why is speech linked to Agni? Again, it's not obvious. Then Shankaracharya ji says, the Shruti says, the letter A is all speech, which being produced by the use of letters divided into sparsha, antasthas, ushma, etc. The letter A is all speech, becomes diverse and assumes many forms. Very difficult to understand. For us, we need the full alphabet. How can we say the letter A is all speech? Maybe someday we will understand. But this is what great thinkers have said. Even more difficult, Shankaracharya ji says, the speaker's power of speech is eternal. The speaker's, who's finite, who's not eternal, the speaker's power of speech is eternal. Really don't know what that means. And by nature is of the same essence as intelligence. So here's a hint that speech and thought are the same intelligence, the same essence. Shankaracharya says, the speaker's power of speech is eternal and is by nature of the same essence as intelligence. And he goes on to say, the power of speech of the speaker knows no decay. So even after this body decays, the power of speech knows no decay. It's almost impossible for us to understand. And we'll close with a smile. The alphabet in all the languages, Indian languages, is called Akshara. And Akshara means imperishable. So Shankaracharya is right. Its power of speech is eternal. Akshara, Aksharabhyasa, the act of first teaching a child to write. Akshara, imperishable. So with that, I will close my prepared presentation. I will see if I can bring